It's 5 o'clock somewhere, and this is Postcards from the Pandemic. Cheers, gentlemen.
Welcome.
My host, Johnny Broker, is in the house.
Cheers.
And the great architect, my friend from the Park School of Buffalo, Duo Dickinson, is in the house.
I am
Duo
not dead.
Dickinson.
I am not dead. I am not dead.
You're very much
Dude.
alive, Duo. Very much alive.
God.
Now,
Miracle.
Duo,
Yes.
look at how handsome you look. The light is hitting you perfectly now. Are you at the
actually-
Barn of Fun in Madison?
No, I'm actually in my office. That is a light bulb that I've trained after 4,000 Zoom calls. That if I don't put that on to hide the incredible, disgusting pallor and wrinkles of my ancient and fat face, that I look like even worse than I normally look. The only
Well, I
good
thought
thing,
it was
the good thing is you can't see me from behind, so you can't see the gigantic bald spot. It's just there, laughing.
I thought I was in one of the Yale art galleries, because the way that light is coming down on your face, it looks like a 1600 era artist spent a long time in somewhere in Flanders making you look like that. So,
Illusion
amazing.
is important. Illusion is very important.
Yes, sir.
So by way of introduction, I first met Duo Dickinson when we were both at the Park School of Buffalo.
Yes.
And then we reconnected. Duo is an architect and an author living in Madison, Connecticut, and was the co-host of the Real Life Survival Guide, a series of conversations about living.
Don't you think those are the best things we ever did? I mean,
Yeah,
as a person,
So
I
much fun.
I never will forget it. It was just more fun than anything.
We had a
Every
blast.
time I was a guest was fantastic.
Oh,
Just a
so
great
good.
bunch of people.
That's right. Yeah, that's kind of the connection, because Johnny was a guest a bunch of
first time.
times.
Johnny also likes to hurt people, right, John? You like to-
Sometimes it depends what you mean by hurt people.
There is
you know?
there's that sort of pathological football, rugby sort of thing.
Yes. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah. So Duo is a football player, and
Yeah.
Johnny is a rugby player and coach and media star.
Yeah. And Duo has his two children who really reflect him. One is a very gifted academic musician, and the other one is a football kid, right? So like it's you've
They
made
are
the best of both worlds.
They are quite different. In fact, what brings the whole circle around is that the totally non-athletic kid, the older kid, had the greatest baseball coach in the world when he was 8. I mean, one of the great humans.
Mhm.
So he gives him, because he was definitively the worst baseball player on his team, I'm proud to say that, and gave him a Player of the Year award because he worked at it, was at every practice, and did really well. Now I am designing their house, the coach's house. So
amazing.
That is
literally
fantastic.
20 years later, I am making their house. So that makes me feel very good.
Are you putting is there a field of dreams in the backyard? Rows of corn.
I-95 is in their backyard, so that is a nightmare.
Yeah.
So we want to find out, we've been asking around, getting together with people, where were you when the pandemic broke out? Where were you and what were you doing when you realized this is serious?
Well, it was kind of interesting because this is one of these strange things that you knew was coming. If you had a brain, you heard that this thing was coming down the track and you knew stuff was going to happen. So in the classic boomer response, which is, oh, well then I gotta do this. We went out to dinner like 8 times in 3 days, and we like met with 27 people, and the hammer actually hit, and you could feel the ball peen hammer hitting your head when people that were slated to come by for a drink at 5:30 at night, because we knew the hammer was coming down the next day by the governor. They called up, and she called up and said, "I can't come. I sneezed."
That's interesting, right? But,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
as a
And
pandemic breaks out, Duo Dickinson is hoarding appetizers.
We go to Maury's and we have one of the best meal I've ever had at Maury's with 7 or 8 other people, the only people in the entire place, because it's all closed except for this one dinner they were put on. And we're all going like, "I'm not dead." They're going, "I'm not dead." They're all on each other.
Well,
And so then, and then what we like to follow that up with and get a sense. So you're loaded up on good food and drink, and then what happens as you know, in your life as an architect? How do things change then?
Well, here's where it gets very weird. And Bruce, you know this. I've always stayed in touch with books that I do, but also with things that I do with a lot of other architects. I'm a fellow in the AIA. I'm in touch with a lot of architects. And there really are two scenarios. And to be honest, I don't know what the key is. One scenario is, and this is the one you don't expect. Projects get put on hold. You don't get any new calls on work. You lay people off. You get into your bunker. You keep jobs that are being built or unavoidably progressing intact, and you just ride out the storm. And that was true for a lot of people in 2008. That was true for a lot of people in Connecticut anyway, in the tech bubble burst. There have been these cycles, and this was definitely a big crush. What's happened, not just to me, but other architects that I know, and I think it's because we're old, literally, we didn't lose a single job, nothing was put on hold. And I've interviewed for 8 jobs and we've gotten 7 of them. Oh. So work-wise, it's fine. All of my employees are good people and they're all fine, but none of them wants to work here. And I'm not going to force them to work here. So we are remote working everything, which is why I'm here on a late Saturday afternoon, and why I'm here 7 days a week, and why I literally send out 100 emails a day, 100 emails a day. And about 50 of them are to employees, and about 20 or 30 of them are to clients, and the rest are just what I would normally send. So this time is brutal on the boss man. I mean, it's not a great time for me. But we have, they're all getting paid. Everybody's happy. I didn't have to take out a PPP loan like a lot of my friends did. I didn't have to do any of that stuff. And seemingly we're able to keep up with stuff, but it means I now have to do Zoom conferences with people. And think about a Zoom conference with an architect. You don't drive anywhere, but you've got to actually create the graphic stuff that you're showing them, which means photographs, which means drawings, which means scans. So you're actually making more models, photographing more stuff. So you're creating these Zoom calls where you do the share thing and the thing goes up and you see all the
Zoom architecture.
Yeah. So, Duo, I had kind of a question, that something that I just thought of, and I was thinking about talking about you and your business. When I was in the early days yet, right, in this pandemic, but see, you go to a store and there's a shield behind the counter. Are people early on like looking for changes in their design and the way they do things in response to this?
Here's the thing. You would think so, right? But what we haven't, and to be honest, we aren't doing that much work in the retail world. You don't do a lot of retail stuff. We're doing 2 synagogues. We're doing a bunch of churches, new and not new. So we're doing a bunch of things that involve gatherings, but all the people that are doing gatherings are saying, this will be okay. We're not going to change it enormously. And all the people that are doing the residential work are saying, I've always wanted to do blah. And since they want to do blah, the new ones, they say, I'm going to do it now. It's my place. It's not subject to any COVID anything. None of the jobs are large. We have one very nice house that I worked on today, but that's not affected at all by anything. It's just, people's homes become more important to them when everything closes in.
So let me ask you this, because coincidentally, well, you've been, this is kind of where we left off with the Real Life Survival Guide.
Exactly right.
We're in a 1938 home, and we've got 2 bathrooms that basically have stopped working. So we're
There's a porta potty out back.
Yeah, exactly.
Open window.
It's we've got Johnny on the spot in the back. No, but so and then what's coinciding with this is thank goodness we've just paid the last college tuition, so we're ready to do the bathrooms, and then eventually it'll be the kitchen. But for the bathrooms, just off the top of your head, are there things that people, you think retail customers are going to want based on the lives they've lived during this pandemic?
That's a really good question. I just wrote a piece actually for Hearst Publications and for Common Edge. And the piece basically is what architects do is they see things and they jump to be the leader. They try to divine what's important, and then they try to make everything work because that's the way it goes. The reality, though, is the truth is, I think the only thing we know is that homes are really, really important. And I also think that in knowing that homes are really important, people are still thinking about them. So I can't see, and I know a lot of architects are saying, oh, well, this and oh, well, that, and da-da-da-da. No. The thing is that I think it's the where we live is going to be forever. Well, forever. Well, I'm going to live for another 30 years, maybe, if I'm lucky. Where this 3 generations of people that are living in homes is going to go isn't going to be known for at least months and maybe years, but it's going to tilt. And I think it's going to tilt away from this and more to this. So if I were to predict, I just literally drew, before we got on the phone, I drew 2 master bedrooms for these great humans I've known for a long time. One is the bed in the space and the view. Bed in the space and the view. Nothing else. The other one is space, bed in it, chair in it, chest of drawers in it, and view. 2 doors, one to a bathroom, one to a closet. Much more from the mid 20th century. I don't know which one they're going to go with. I really don't. The truth is that I did that intentionally to say, is your bedroom a nest or is your bedroom a space? And that is kind of where the where the responses are getting made. A really interesting thing, though, is that what is right now, and this is just now, and it could change in a month, is that right now, in this part of Connecticut where we all are right now, this part of Connecticut is strangely more desirable than it was 3 months ago, because people from New York City are almost universally saying, at least I want the option to get the hell out of there.
Yeah. And the other thing I was thinking, as you were talking about bedrooms, also now the bedroom has to be, where you sleep. It's your hangout space, but it's also your schoolyard, your schoolhouse, your office, your Johnny.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask, is there any talk kind of in the industry about people might not really be going back to offices. So there's office redesign, which I guess is a whole other conversation. But then there's now people working from home and schooling their children from home. Are people asking or talking about that a little bit in the design area?
Oh, there's so many articles. There's so many articles. The 10 ways architecture is going to change. The open office is dead. The skyscraper is dead. Density is gone. All this kind of stuff. And you're going well, yeah. There's a reason why there was density or is density or should be density, so that you don't have so much stress on the infrastructure and you got lower carbon footprint. There is a reason why schools make sense when kids get together. There are reasons why these things happened. So then the question is, you're not going to undo those things, but you're going to have a different perspective how those things play out. And there are some cynical people I know. There's an architect actually, and I think it's Dayton, Ohio, who I say in touch with. I was on his radio show, and he basically says, this is all baloney. He says the next thing's going to happen and people are going to forget about it. We'll all get vaccinated and this is just over. And I'm just proceeding on. Architect, and he's not there, but the architects that know in New York City are going oh no, this is going to be a thing and it's going to be
everybody must have their bunker in the Hamptons.
Control. So I have to say that I think that your little part of the universe here, this little thing you're doing, is what's required. I think for of people saying, do you know? I think that's the way these people connect, and these people, us people, we, the world connects because mortality. Nothing clears your head like the hangman's noose.
That's,
When you
yeah.
said basically, if you do this, you could kill yourself or your grandmother.
And I read somewhere, you know, the fact that in this time, you know, we crave human connection, and all of a sudden, all of our fellow humans are potential threats. So, and I guess that always, you know, that of course speaks to the difficult side of this pandemic. But we like to close by asking, you know, and so you have had this, we all have had, I think, this. You know, this stark examination of our mortality. But what's the silver lining for you? What have you discovered that's kind of like a glass half full type of thing?
We lived in our house for 36 years. We decided before the pandemic to just reorient things, really for the first time, and put our dining room table in a place where 2 windows are like this. So you're looking at either any way you sit at the table, you'll be able to see out a window. Before the pandemic, younger son, football playing son, who is about 7% body fat, John, and is basically running 8-mile runs every day.
Oh, God bless.
And played at 290, and now wants to be at 198. Which I said to him, never. But anyway, so we basically were sitting there after about the first week, and we're at the dining room table eating together. He grew up in that house for 18 years straight, and then on and off for the next 10 years straight. And we're going, we've never done that before. We've never sat at the dining room table for 7 days in a row, eating a cooked meal and talking to each other. Never done that before.
Do you like each other? Do you guys like each other?
I think to be honest, we tolerate each other. We get on each other's nerves. I'm an ass. You know, my wife is a little officious. My son played football. So we're all a little bit, you know.
Yeah, all Karen does all day is tolerate me.
Hey guys, it was great to be with you.
Yeah.
Oh, Duo, so good seeing you.
And anytime you want me back, I'm here for you.
One last question. So, Duo, you said something before we got started, and since we're pumping up a lot of local New Haven things, going to be talking to a couple of restaurants, and we're both drinking New England beer.
Yes.
You're going somewhere in New Haven.
I'm going to 116 Crown. My buddies, the Genettis, have had it forever. We're the first people back in their garden in the rain 10 days ago, and we were the only people there.
So how's the, you know, are they doing a good job making you feel comfortable in our
you know what?
world?
We go to Barber, we go to a bunch of places. The people that are there that we know, these are families. They're just humans. They're just us. And I think, to be honest, a lot of people like me, you know, I've always tried to be a good architect and a good writer for editors. But now maybe there's a gratitude factor or a love factor.
Totally. I mean, totally.
And I think that gratitude and love factor is just more present and more acknowledged. And the thing that is the ultimate irony is, you know, like you, John, I'm sure if you played rugby, you're a hugger, right? You want to hug, right? You really want to grab guys.
Yeah, kind of, you know.
So we have these people. I go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a hugger, definitely. And it's funny actually with my 2 sons. One of them, the older one, gives me the shoulder. I bring it in. He gives me the shoulder. The other one's like the younger one is a full-on hugger.
And he'll be out of the hospital soon.
Yeah, exactly. He's coming off the ventilator anyway.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. Duo Dickinson.
God bless you guys.
Cheers.
Duo, you're the
Love
man.
you too.
You are the man. Good to see you guys.
116 Crown. Yep.